Man Spider, Disney, lawsuit. We return to this series with Yukarisu having called in some of her fellow troopers to exterminate the wannabe riders. Of course, amongst the ranks was her boyfriend, but at this point there was totally nothing that they could do to save these guys and... I told you, you shouldn't have hired those guys just because they like your social media posts. Yeah, they quickly disposed of all of the troopers, and in the process showed off their different fighting styles. Personally, Yuriko remains my personal favorite as a pro wrestler fan, as she delivered a pretty sweet modified brainbuster. Hell, she's even able to protect her opponent's neck with her, assets. I mean, at least it looked better than whatever Goldberg was trying to do here. Also, yeah, it's hilarious that she keeps referring to all of her attacks as the electric wave throw, even though they're all kind of different attacks. I mean, I guess this could have been Tackle's moveset if her actress didn't have her asthma issues, but whatever. Anyway, they dealt with all of the cannon fodder, except for one. Of course, Mitsuba tried to stand up for his girl, in spite of his brother's unrelenting drive to defeat all of Shocker. He tried to get a minute to talk things out with her, but Ichio had different plans. Well, I see someone's mindset is stuck in the same time period as his favorite rider. Yeah, I think this point he's less emulating V3 and more Shin Asuka. And speaking of familiar voices, the mysterious guy from the convenience store arrived, who Tojima and Yuriko knew was a Kaijin. As for what sort of Kaijin he was, well, it was already kind of given away in his name, Kumota, and hey, look at that VA! So, we've got a gray-haired emo dude with corrosive powers. Yep. Can't take that back to any other characters this VA has played. Just ignore that thumbnail. Granted, he's nowhere near as cringe as Hiroaka's final boss, which honestly made this diss to Ichio even funnier. Anyway, whilst the wannabe trio tried to fight Kumota, Mitsuba declared that he'd protect his girlfriend by running off.
That makes sense to me.
One by one, the Kaiji managed to pick off the wannabes, who, to their credit, were being smart by supporting one another when they could, and in spite of not really coming together as a team just yet. It showed that while they still had their own goals and Oshi that they were trying to emulate, they also knew that they shouldn't just ignore their fellow do-gooders. And again, Yuriko did another variation of her throw move. Still looks better than another Okada's clotheslines. Seriously, he's been pulling it in ever since he got to AEW. Ichio managed to land the most damage through his rapid-fire chops that ended up exposing Kumata's true identity as the Man Spider. Again, not to be confused with a certain superhero who has more copyright issues than a Nintendo lawsuit. He tried to finish off Ichio, but was saved by an arm of rope. Yep, Mitsuba had returned dressed as Rider Man, who we had mentioned in the episode 2 review as being the sidekick to V3, so rather appropriate that he ended up saving the guy who tried to emulate him without a real costume or anything. Yeah, it's kinda sad when the sidekicks have better costumes than the guys who are supposed to be the main heroes. Anyway, his rope arm was pretty legit, as not only could it fire, but I think said rope was made from some sort of strong metal fiber with a powerful magnet that was able to tie up Kumota. With that, the wannabe riders decided to retreat, but Yukarisu still had some questions. This just makes me realize that Mine really would have been a much better character if she could have been more of a straight man to her team's nonsense. But yeah, hilariously enough, not only did the wannabes not run away when they probably should have, Kumata pretty much just let Mitsuba do his whole exposition dump here. Anyway, even though Hiroshi Miyauchi was listed in the credits, I'm again pretty sure that they were just using archival recordings of Kamen Rider V3 for these scenes. I say this because they didn't advertise his return like they did with Hiroshi Fujioka in the first episode, and of course it's just easier to dig up some old footage and pay the still living actor some royalties later. But yeah, the brothers relate with V3 because he was a rider who was fighting to avenge his family who were killed off by Destron, which were basically Shocker, as they later revealed the great leader of that faction was the same as Shocker, as well as most of the other villain factions of the Showa era of Kamen Rider. So you could say that they were all just Shocker after multiple rebrandings, which hopefully another franchise will go through rather than just go away. Anyway, as kids, the brothers of course often play acted as Kamen Rider V3, and like most kids, one always ended up hogging the role of the titular hero. Yeah, really expect Damien Desmond to play fair? On that note, I like to imagine Anya having the meanest rider punch ever. But yeah, Ichio agreed to let his little brother be V3 if he could beat him in a fight. So yeah, pretty typical sibling rivalry stuff that continued into their high school years, where Mitsuba did improve over the years by incorporating some Aikido into his repertoire. And again, I really gotta compliment the show's fight choreography, as when it's not doing some of the fun over-the-top stuff like all of the rider kicks and such, they do show how these characters have legit trained in martial arts. Frankly, I think Mitsuba was more skilled than his brother, but when it came to battles of attrition, Ichio would still win out. However, that was when he proposed that his brother should just be Rider Man. Hey, come on, Rider Man is cool, plus Gak's favorite rider. And to make him somewhat accurate to the real thing, he broke one of his brother's arms, as Rider Man was a partial cyborg who had his right arm melted away by one of the evil generals of Destron. However, out of the quote-unquote kindness of his heart, he went for his left hand instead. I am left-handed, you idiot! You ruined me! But yeah, Ichio was honestly trying to help his brother find a more appropriate rider to emulate, which for him would be Rider Man, who was still mostly a normal guy with some fancy gadgets like his interchangeable arms, so basically a Batman amongst a bunch of Supermen, which did make him one of the more popular show riders for his scrappy nature. And in Mitsuba's case, it did suit him more as a guy who focuses more on his smarts and heart than just brute force. Which on that note, the latter would be put to the test when Kumota managed to take control of Yukarisu. Damn, y'all are into the kinky stuff. The others tried to help, but Mitsuba managed to handle things by just being a total Chad and outright proposing to Yukarisu, who was so happy that it undid the brainwashing, which, hey, as someone who hates that trope, I actually appreciate that they undid it so quickly, and again, these two are just a cute couple. However, I guess all this normie crap finally started to awaken Kumota's inner Shigaraki, and the episode ended with him transforming into his full monster form. This is another really good episode that managed to give a lot of spotlight to the cutest couple in this whole show. It was also neat to learn how Mitsuba ended up choosing to emulate Rider Man. Granted, that was mostly because the brother forced it upon him, but that just kind of added to the laughs. While his methods were more than likely a little selfish, Ichio probably did have the right idea to have his brother emulate Rider Man, as not only was he a great character, but he did end up resonating more with his younger brother. And really, that's kind of been the main theme of this anime, with characters who are able to come together and relate to their passion for the Kamen Rider franchise in some unique ways. Some form new friendships like Tojima and Yuriko, or even romantic relationships, albeit with a little difficulty like with Mitsuba and Yukarisu. Though really, most relationships are a matter of recognizing each other's differences, so you could say this is kind of reflective of that. But yeah, along with that, this is still a really good hero show of a group of characters who are all technically Ridermen themselves, struggling to fight the franchise's first two monsters of the week, which they effectively highlighted the power gap here to show how it wouldn't be an easy challenge for them like with the troopers. Kumata is just an entertainingly edgy villain, with some spot-on casting no less. The fights as usual were all great, be it with him or even the brothers trying to one-up each other, making for overall another really good episode that even managed to work in some good character relationship building. Mitsuba might not be as physically strong as his brother, but I think we all know who the real winner of this family is. Thanks for watching my first video back after a bit of vacation. I had a great time in Japan. I saw the sights, ate some good food, and picked up a lot of toys. That's it, we'll get right back to catching up with our videos for the rest of this week. So look forward to Princession Orchestra, hopefully tomorrow. And until then though, for now my friends, and didn't realize the Kumota had an X account. Why does he keep reposting stuff about Marvel Rivals?